The edge of deception. The roar of the wind in his ears, the screech of tires on the hot asphalt, the tremor of the steering wheel in his hands. Andrew gripped it tighter, feeling the adrenaline flood his veins. His old but powerful Challenger wasn't built for such maneuvers, but today he sped down the outer highways, leaving behind only clouds of dust and a bitter taste. Behind him, somewhere in the urban labyrinth, wasn't just a deal. It was an entire life built on lies, and now those lies threatened to collapse, burying everything he held dear beneath the rubble. But the worst was yet to come, and Andrew felt it in every fiber of his being. Andrew was a virtuoso, not a violinist or a painter, but a master of words and persuasion. His instrument was his voice, his canvas, other people's minds. He was a brilliant con artist, capable of selling ice to an Eskimo in Antarctica. His specialty was pyramid schemes, complex, multi-layered operations that seemed to guarantee untold riches, and people believed. They believed in his perfectly polished speech, his impeccable appearance, his promises of mountains of gold. He started small, with petty scams in city markets where he sold non-existent shares, and ended up filling auditoriums with trusting citizens eager for easy money. He wasn't an inherently malicious person. Once long ago in his youth, Andrew dreamed of an honest career in finance. He graduated from a prestigious university but faced a harsh reality. The world of big economics was closed to those without connections or wealth. Disappointment, resentment, and then a thirst for self-affirmation pushed him down a slippery slope. He realized that honesty was just one tool, and sometimes a serious hindrance. Andrew possessed incredible charisma, an almost hypnotic influence over people. He could melt distrust, evoke sympathy, and plant the seed of greed in a matter of minutes. He believed he wasn't taking but redistributing money, taking it from those who were too naive or too greedy. This was his twisted philosophy. His empire grew. He leased expensive offices in the city center, hired charming assistants, and hosted lavish presentations. People brought him their last savings, dreaming of a prosperous future. Andrew was careful. He never worked blindly. He studied each client, researching their financial situation, their weaknesses, their dreams. He always left himself avenues of retreat, planning several scenarios for events to unfold. His main commandment was, never fully trust and always have a plan B. However, his biggest mistake was trust. Trust in a man he considered his best friend and right-hand man, Victor. Victor was Andrew's complete opposite, quiet, unassuming, but incredibly meticulous and thorough in financial matters. He handled the black accounting, money laundering, and the creation of complex schemes that allowed them to evade taxes and oversight. Victor was the brain, Andrew was the face. Their tandem was almost perfect. Their last scam was their most ambitious. They convinced tens of thousands of people to invest in an innovative technology that promised to revolutionize the world of energy. In reality, this technology existed only on paper. Money flowed like a river, and Andrew already tasted absolute freedom. He planned to complete the project, fake the technology's collapse, and disappear with a huge sum, securing a prosperous future for himself and his loved ones somewhere on the other side of the world. But a few days before the final act, Andrew discovered something disturbing. Small details that didn't fit the bigger picture. Inconsistencies in Victor's reports, strange transactions to unfamiliar accounts, missing sums that had no connection to their scheme. He began to suspect that Victor was playing his own game. Paranoia, a con artist's constant companion, began to grow in his soul. Andrew, using his old connections in the banking sector, started digging. Nights, he sat at his computer, studying data that Victor had meticulously hidden. And the deeper he delved, the clearer the picture became. Victor wasn't just laundering money, he was simultaneously building his own, completely independent scheme from Andrew, redirecting a portion of the funds to his own offshore accounts. He was methodically robbing his friend, preparing to disappear, leaving Andrew with a crashed pyramid and enraged investors. Victor wasn't just betraying him, he was setting him up, intending to make him the scapegoat. The realization hit him like lightning. Not anger, but a cold, calculated fury consumed Andrew. He had been betrayed by the person closest to him, a man he had trusted with his secrets, his plans, his freedom. That night, Andrew understood that the line of deception blurred not only between him and his victims, but also between him and his accomplice. He decided to act immediately. Andrew had an ace up his sleeve, a flash drive with compromising information on Victor. For many months, out of habit, he had played it safe, recording all of Victor's schemes, all his machinations, all the evidence. He hadn't intended to use them, but his instinct for self-preservation always demanded a backup plan. The meeting with Victor was scheduled in an old abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Andrew had chosen the location. He knew Victor would be cautious, but his greed would force him to come. Andrew arrived early, thoroughly checking the area. He hid his Challenger behind a dilapidated hangar and positioned himself in the shadows, waiting. A small but sharp knife hung from his belt, a tool he never used, but its presence gave Andrew confidence. He didn't intend to kill anyone. He just needed one last, decisive conversation. Victor appeared precisely on time. He stepped out of a black SUV, looking around. He wore an expensive suit, a perfectly ironed shirt. He looked smug and confident. Too confident. "What's wrong, Andrew? You look pale." Victor's voice was even, but there was a hint of sarcasm. "Yes, I'm a little tired of our games." Andrew emerged from the shadows. "I think you're not playing by the rules." Victor's face changed. The smile vanished. His eyes narrowed. "What are you talking about?" "About you trying to pull a fast one on me. About you taking a cut of our money. About you planning to leave me here, alone with all this mess." Victor laughed. Nervously, arrogantly. "You're delusional. We're partners. I've always been loyal to you." "Don't lie to me, Victor. I know everything. I have proof. All your schemes. All your secret accounts. It's all on this flash drive." Andrew pulled the flash drive from his pocket. Victor's eyes lit up. He realized he was caught. And then Andrew saw something that made him freeze. Victor's gaze flickered to his hand holding the flash drive, then to his pocket, where Andrew felt something protruding. "You think you're the smartest?" Victor's voice hardened. "I knew you didn't trust me for a long time. I knew you were watching me, and I was ready." Victor pulled a pistol from his inner jacket pocket, small but deadly. He held it steadily, without a tremor. "Give me the flash drive, Andrew. And then maybe I'll let you go." Maybe. Andrew paled. He hadn't expected this. He was ready for blackmail, for threats, but not this. His perfect, meticulously planned life was collapsing. "You won't do it," Andrew said, trying to buy time. "You don't need this. We can make a deal." "A deal? About what, Andrew? About you trying to trick me again?" "No. I'm not that foolish." Victor took a step forward, pointing the pistol directly at Andrew's chest, and then an unforeseen twist occurred that neither of them could have predicted. Behind them, there was a deafening screech of metal. An old, rusted billboard, worn down by time and wind, suddenly collapsed, raising a cloud of dust and drowning out all other sounds. A startled cry. Andrew, instinctively jumping aside, saw Victor, distracted by the noise, trip over a piece of rebar sticking out of the ground. The pistol flew from his hand and clattered onto the concrete floor. It was a second. A fraction of a second that decided everything. Andrew didn't hesitate. He lunged for the pistol. Victor, limping, also rushed for it. They collided over the weapon, fighting desperately. Two shadows struggling in the dust, thick and suffocating. Andrew's hands fumbled for something heavy and sharp. The knife. Panic. A tremor. Andrew felt Victor pressing down on him, trying to push him away. He pulled his hand back sharply, blindly, trying to defend himself. He felt resistance. A muffled groan. Victor recoiled, letting go. In Victor's eyes, there was astonishment mixed with pain. He looked at his hand, then at Andrew. You, Victor whispered, falling to his knees. Blood gushed from his abdomen like a fountain. Andrew's knife, slipping from his hand, fell with a dull thud beside him. Andrew stared at him, at Victor, who slowly slumped to the ground. at the blood that spread across the dusty concrete, forming an ominous stain. He hadn't wanted this. He hadn't planned it. An accident. A foolish, absurd accident that turned his world upside down. Now he was no longer just a con artist. He was a killer. Panic gripped him with renewed force. He couldn't leave Victor here. He'd be found. And then everything would come out. He'd be caught. His gaze fell on Victor's black SUV. Breathing heavily, Andrew picked up the still living but rapidly weakening Victor and with superhuman effort dragged him into the SUV's cabin. He got behind the wheel, floored the gas pedal, and the car sped away, raising a whirlwind of dust. He drove aimlessly, weaving through the night streets, trying to figure out what to do. His head pounded with tension. Victor's voice in the cabin faded. The blood continued to flow. Andrew knew there was no chance. Finally, he stopped at a deserted stretch of riverbank. In the distance, the city lights shimmered, but here, at the edge of the world, there was only darkness and the river, which looked like an inky ribbon cutting through the gloom. Andrew opened the door. With difficulty, he pulled Victor's body out of the car. He didn't feel its weight, only the unbearable burden of what had happened. He dragged the body to the water, pushing it over the side. A heavy splash broke the silence of the night. Ripples on the water quickly spread, swallowing his former partner. He stood on the bank, staring at the dark water. Victor's face, his last words, his gaze, filled with pain and betrayal, haunted him. Andrew knew that from now on, his life would never be the same. He had gotten rid of the evidence, but not his conscience. Andrew returned to his Challenger. He started the engine. Again, the roar of the wind, the screech of tires. But now, that sound was different. It was filled not only with adrenaline, but also with the echo of what he had done. The pyramid he had built for years collapsed not at the hands of investors or the police, but from betrayal and chance. He was free, but that freedom was an illusion, because unlike money, conscience could not be cast away. It remained with him, poisoning every breath, every thought. And Andrew knew that this edge of deception he had crossed now forever divided his life into before and after. He was a brilliant con artist, but he had become a pathetic killer, cornered by his own games. He drove away, into nowhere, and in the rearview mirror he saw not the city lights, but only darkness and his own distorted face.